Hello students, welcome back to eVarsity and welcome again to your SPSS fundamental course. Today we are going to discuss the second chapter. This chapter will guide you towards the process of coding your research data into SPSS readable format. Earlier we discussed about research design. In this part we will discuss how to code your research data into SPSS readable format. So here we go now with the second chapter titled as Preparing a Codebook. Chapter 2, Preparing a Codebook. Before you can enter the information from your questionnaire, interviews or experiment into SPSS, it is necessary to prepare a codebook. In this chapter, you will learn a summary of the instructions that you will use to convert the information obtained from its subject or case into a format that SPSS can understand. Oh, one thing. Before going to the next discussion, we will strongly recommend you to use Adobe Acrobat Reader, the latest version. It is because to some extent our PDF files are interactive in nature. These may include attachment, fillable form, audio or video even, which may not be supported by other PDF solutions. Anyway, preparing the codebook involves deciding and documenting how you will go about two things. These are defining and labeling each of the variables and assigning number to each of the possible responses. In your codebook, you should list all of the variables in your questionnaire, the abbreviated variable names that you will use in SPSS and the way in which you will code the responses. Sounds hard? Okay, let me have you an example. Suppose you have a research questionnaire which looks like this. Your survey has respondent ID. Here you may put a unique number for each of the respondent. Your research question may also ask your respondent's gender, that is sex. It means whether they are male or female. Thirdly, your question may ask respondent age. Asking age may have several ways, but to keep it simple, here we have used one method just to put the age in year, and that is it. Fourthly, your question may ask the respondent's marital status, and here you will have several options which are single, in a relationship, living with partner, married for the first time, remarried, separated, divorced or widowed. Now, the question is how to make the questionnaire into an SPSS understandable format. It means SPSS will not understand your question directly. So, let's go. To do so, first of all, take a piece of paper and this paper will be called your SPSS codebook. Now, in your codebook, you should list all of the variables in your questionnaire, the abbreviated variable names that you will use in SPSS and the way in which you will code the responses. Sounds confusing? Okay, no problem. Let's visualize it. In your SPSS codebook, you may write like this. Here variable means the variable you have in your original research portion. Please recall from the earlier slide where you have given a respondent ID and then asked their sex, age and marital status. This is your questionnaire part. Now, your task is to convert this questionnaire into SPSS understandable format. To do so, first of all, you need to convert your questionnaire variables into SPSS variable name. Here, instead of writing respondent ID, you may write simply as ID, sex as sex, age and age, but marital status is only marital. And in the third column, you see coding instructions are given there. It means you are assigning number for each response so that SPSS can understand. Seems confusing? Don't get panic. In the previous slide, I have shown you a glimpse of SPSS coding. Now, we will discuss in detail. The first topic is variable name. So, here we go now. Variable name. Each question or item in your questionnaire must have a unique variable name. Some of these names will clearly identify the information. Example, age or sex. Other questions such as the items that make up a scale may be identified using an abbreviation. It means for your long variable name, you may use abbreviation to name the variable in SPSS. Say for example, OP1, OP2, OP3 is used to identify the items that makes up the optimism scale. Hey, don't mistakenly think you will always have to use OP1, OP2, OP3 as your abbreviated variable names. These are just examples. Use your own abbreviated variable names which best match your original variable names or type or a name that is easily recognizable to you. Rules for naming the variables. Your variable names must be unique. Each of the variables data must set have different name. Must begin with a letter, not a number. Cannot include full stop, space or symbols like exclamation, question, star or conversion mark. And your variable cannot include words used as command by SPSS. That means there are some words which SPSS consider as command, and be aware of using this command. Some of the commands are all, any, eq, to, le, lt, by, all, zt, and not, ze, with. And finally, your variable name cannot exceed 64 characters. Try to keep your variable name short because a very long variable name can make the output rather hard to read. So keep them as concise as possible. Sounds confusing? Okay. Let me show you from SPSS software perspective. This is IBM SPSS Statistics 20. You may have other version of SPSS in your computer, but for this course we will use IBM SPSS 20 only. Anyway, SPSS has two major type of views. One is data view and another one is variable view. At the bottom of the window you can see data view and variable view, data view and variable view. If you select the data view, by default all of the columns are named as VAR, 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 VAR. This column means these are the variable column. You have to name these variables. Anyway, to name these variables, you have to go into variable view. So click on the variable view and you see the window has been changed a bit different way. And after the variable naming procedure, here you will name the variable, and you have the name column. You type any name as you like, and then type, then with the decimal level, values, missing column, align, measures, and row. That means in your variable view, you will define each and every variable what you have shown or seen in the data view. And after variable naming procedure, your second task for SPSS is to code these variables. Coding means you are dictating SPSS to different answers differently. Say for example, if you code set, okay, we are not going to do set as first because our first variable is id. So here you type id and then determine the type. It will be id will be numeric because you are going to enter the numeric data, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the things. And here when you are going to define the type and say is numeric, you will have to define the width and decimal places. Width here by default width is 8. That means you can enter a number that is 8 digit long. Anyway, you can shorten its number by 2 or 3 or whatever you like. And decimal place means after the placing decimals, how many places are you supposed to use. Since respondent ID has no decimal, so here we type 0 and press OK. Anyway, level. Later, after giving the name of the variable, you have to label it. Label means what is the details name of the variable. And here you say first variable is respondent ID. So you name as respondent ID. Label it as RESPON respondent ID. Column, you can expand the column width 11, and yes, you see the change that the column is a bit wider. You can make the column even wider by stretching it up and right and left, and you see that is the column where width is 21. If you squeeze it, then you see column width is 10. So this is the actually column factor name. Align. It is left alignment, light alignment or justified. And measures you have to name. These are the nominal data. So you have to name it as nominal. In the later part of the SPSS, we will define you what is nominal, what is ordinal data. Anyway, your second variable is sex. So here you type the name sex for the second variable, then type is, this is also numeric and width is 1 and decimal place 0. Level, write respondent array as PONDE respondent sets, values. Values are the important things. By placing values, you will determine or dictate SPSS what you will use for specific sex of a person. Suppose if you enter 1 for male, then press add, and 2 for female and press add and press OK, and 1 for male, remember 1 for male and 2 for female. So whenever you are going to give input in the data, you do not need to write male or female. You just simply place 1 or 2, and this is the things what we have directed in this part, 1 for male, 2 for female. This is also nominal data, so press nominal. In the third variable, it is age, so type age, then it is also numeric, weight, and weight is, it is same 2 at best 3, because and in the level type age of the areas PONDE and TS respondent, and values you have to determine no values because age have no specified value and a person, certificate person has different age anyway. And column is width is 1 and scale it is also scale data. So age is scale data anyway. And the fourth variable is marital status. We are not going to discuss about the marital status anyway. Now we are going to our next slide, which is we have learned how to code the responses, how to code the variables like respondent ID, age and sex. Now if you have these types of question, how will you code this in SPSS? Suppose in your questionnaire you have asked what is your marital status, and you have given several options which are single, in a relationship, living with partner, married for the first time, remarried, separated, divorced or widowed. Now the question is how you are going to code these options into SPSS readable format. Here we go now. Each respondent must be assigned a numerical code before it can be entered into SPSS. To code these questions, you may use conversion technique. It is a very simple process. Here, in your code book, you may assign numbers, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of the available options. How? This is the way your coding or SPSS codebook may look like. You have assigned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for different options available here. That is 1 for single, 2 for in a relationship, 3 for in living with partner, 4 for married for the first time, 5 for remarried, 6 for separated, 7 for divorced, 8 for widowed. Now, how we are going to code this in SPSS? It's a very simple process. Let me show you how you are going to code this into SPSS. So this is the status. Here you have type, here you are naming the variable as marital, M-A-R-I-T-A-L, marital, and then you type it is numeric because you are going to give input of the data which is numeric, and then name the level as marital status, marital, marital, status, marital status, then put the value. This is the important factor you must learn. Values, in the values column you have to give the value. So value and labels. We have assigned 1 for single, so here you type 1 and then label it as SI NGL is single, press add, then type 2 and press in a relationship in a RELATIONSSIP relationship, then press add, then press 3 and type as living with partner, living with PRTN your partner, then type 4 and label it as married for the first time, married for the first time. Press 5, then write remarried and press add, press 6 and then type separated, press add, press 7, press 7 and then type divorced and press OK. Then finally press 8 and label it as widowed. Okay. So you have all of the responses or possible options are coded. 1 for single, 2 for in a relationship, 3 for living with partner, 4 for married with for the first time, 5 for remarried, 6 for separated, 7 for divorced and 8 for widowed. This is what we have indicated here, that your assigned number, these numbers are actually given input detected in the SPSS. These are the labels and values and press OK. Now we are done. And another thing, it is also a nominal data. So press nominal. Okay, this is what we have done. Anyway, now go to the data view. Earlier you have been in the variable view, given the variables names and designed your variable. Now you are going to the data view and see what is the change. Earlier you have shown these are very where, but now the ID and the age and the sex and marital status have been different. That is, you have named different variable names according to your own determination, judgment and your requirement. Anyway, you have ID and it is shows you have ID. Suppose you are confusing, what does it mean? Then ID, what is ID? So just to know what does ID means, just put your mouse cursor here and you will see it is ID means respondent ID. SPSS is a smart software, so it will tell you by placing your mouse here over the hover the mouse and the place, it will be ID. Suppose you have forgotten what is marital, what does it mean by marital? So if you are confused, do not need to go to the variable view and type find marital and then find the label, oh it is marital status. Don't worry. SPSS is a smart software and you have to just put or hover the mouse cursor over your variable, desired variable name, and then SPSS will show you what does it mean. So, it is marital status. SPSS is showing. However, suppose you are going to input the first ID. So, for your first respondent, suppose you are giving ID as 01 for your first respondent, and this respondent is male or female. Suppose this respondent is male. So, press 1. Age. Suppose your first respondent is of the age of 35. So, press 35. And fourthly, the respondent's marital status is divorced. Suppose. So, then for your divorced you press 7 because you have given it is a 7, so press here as 7. You are done. Now you have ID 1, sex 1, but you have forgotten what does 1 means. 1 means that is which sex is there. So if you are confused, don't worry, you do not have to go in the variable view and ask for the values and find 1 for male, 1 for female. Don't worry, you do not have to go there. You can simply recall it by pressing or by clicking here. Oh, this is the thing. Here earlier you have put 1 and SPSS have detected it as male because you have dictated or directed SPSS to understand or interpret 1 as male, and your respondent age is 35, no problem, and earlier you have entered 7 and SPSS have detected it as a divorced. This is how SPSS actually works. Press again and it will convert in number, and press again, once again it will give you the actual value, the variable's name. This is how SPSS coding or response actually works. Now, in your questionnaire, you may have some other types of question which are called as open-ended question, and you have to code open-ended question. So, what are the procedure for open-ended question? How do you code your open-ended question from your SPSS in your SPSS code book? Well, do it yourself. Use Google to know the definition of open-ended question, and then ask Google how to code open-ended question in SPSS. This is what you have to you have to do it by yourself. Any question? We are at the last, at the finishing of our lesson today. If you have any question, feel free to ask at eVarsity by placing your command on that lesson page, and if you place your command or question, we will try to solve your question as soon as possible.